Good morning and welcome, everyone. It is, we're recording this, we're meditating, and on January 7th. And it was really interesting. You know, the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Well, yeah, we certainly do. And I would... Anyway, thank you so much for being here with us, and hopefully we can get through this. And today we're going to do a shorter track, and it's from a collection of 3 tracks called Gamma 40. And it's 20 minutes. It's called Blissful Cognition. And I was kind of thinking about this, chewing on this before, just before this started. And you know, it's not enough just to be a good meditator. You know, it's not enough just to be able to reach states of consciousness where we can shut the mind off for a while and experience grounded being, deeper reality. That's essential. It's essential, but it's not enough. And one of the things that we have to be able to do is we have to be able to think also. And just like meditation, it ain't easy, you know, and it's easier if you have good tools and you have good books and you have good teachers, right? But you still got to do the work. It's just like WeAwake and brain entrainment. It saves you years and years of struggles and saves you from perhaps just giving up altogether and just not meditating, because it takes so long and it's so hard, and there's so many possible pitfalls along the way. But when I was a young man, I was part of a religious cult, and I know a thing or two about the dynamics of cults. So I have cultar, if you will. I can really smell them out. And I think that's what's been going on in the United States. And I was watching last night where people were, a lot of the Congress people and the senators were kind of coming out of the dream, out of the delusion of this has gone on for the past 4 or 5 years in the United States. And it's hard, it's shocking. And one of the first professors that I had when I finally got to university, he was kind of a grumpy old Irishman, but very bright. And one of the things that he was talking about is thinking correctly. You know, you have to learn to think correctly. You can't just, be blown about by every whim or whatever, people say, in Nazi Germany, there was a really odious book called The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. And it was by and large used to justify the extermination of Jewish people. And it's just this book that purports to be a meeting of this, the Jewish elders, the elders of Zion, in this graveyard in Czechoslovakia, where I think I may get the details wrong, but something like that. And they come together with their plans to dominate the world. And it's really like, the irony was, it was almost like Hitler was using that book as a playbook for his own plans for world dominion. But, then I got into it, and a friend gave it to me. Have you read this? I was reading this. God, this is such a hateful, awful thing. What is this? And I started doing my research, and this was before the internet, so I couldn't just Google it, and it turns out, I believe that it was lifted from a 19th century French play, and kind of reworked to be this thing. And so that was it was like a bestseller. Everybody had one in Germany. It's a huge thing. You don't hear about it anymore. So it's just an example of just toxic evil stuff that people can buy into, because would they lie, or you hear it enough, or it must be so, or I knew this guy one time who was a real jerk, therefore the protocols of elders Zion is true. You know, all this kind of weird thinking. So thinking that we were doing some letters, writing some letters with Heidi yesterday, and we were talking about, I don't know who said it, but forgive me if, you know, I don't give you credit, but someone once said that the journey of enlightenment, and we took out, I forgot what the number was. So we actually took out a tape measure and did from, you know, like the third eye right here, the frontal lobe down to the heart. It's about 14 inches long, you know. That's how, you know, when you can connect these two major functions, the heart and the brain. And for those of you who are familiar with spiral dynamics or Ken Wilber's works in developmental levels, one of the problems with green, which is a very, very high level of ethical and moral development, is that it's largely a rejection of orange, which is modernity and science and thinking and all the inventions and the gadgetry and the internet and you know, modern medicine and all the stuff that we kind of take for granted that allows those who have at least middle class existences to, you know, to live in a way that would have freaked out the pharaohs. You know, I mean, there's just so much, you know, stuff that we have now that's been created by this. But one of the things that happens is at that level, feelings become more important, and the mind is kind of, oh, you're in your head, you know, get out of your head, just be with your feelings and stuff like this. And that's useful sometimes, but can also be really destructive other times. So we have to learn to think, and we have to study, and we have to look deeply, and we have to engage with first-class thinkers and get beyond, you know, the rhetoric and so much that's available. You know, you really have to be a connoisseur of what to go through, you know, and test things. And okay, he says this is true, and does that based on my study of history and that particular, you know, a conspiracy theory, you know, is that really possible? You know, could people be pulling this off for centuries? You know, or in the age of phones and cameras and recorders everywhere, could people actually keep their mouth shut and this could happen without anybody knowing about it, without anybody taking pictures or recording it? Anyway, so that's why I was thinking that today's track, Blissful Cognition from Gamma 40, is good, because gamma tracks is a very high frequency. In fact, it's the fastest frequency that we deal with, and has been associated with compassion. They first started paying attention to it when they were doing some kind of brain scans or checking with Buddhist monks who were engaged in compassion meditations, and they found their brains, while they were engaged as this, were producing a lot of gamma waves. And it has also been produced with thinking and the ability to process lots and lots of data really quickly, which, oh my God, you know, there's a lot of data to process. So I think that's it's important. And you know, we're very complex beings, and we live in complex times where there are many different levels of development competing, and sometimes, you know, at war with one another. And we have to sort our ways out and get to a place where we can actually come from a more integrated and maybe even transcendence place, that we can, you know, take the good out of all these different things, you know, and put it together in a new way that offers hope for the future. So we really have to do our homework. And in integral theory, we talk about different lines of intelligence. You know, there's a physical line. I mean, for you know, for athletes, or however, you know, whatever you're good at. There's a musical line, there's culinary lines, there's just intellectual, mathematical, poetic. I mean, you could go on. I think somebody listed them, but I think anything that you can do could possibly have its own line. But the essential lines that we talk about is the body, the mind, the emotions, and the spiritual. And the emotions involves, and the spiritual also involves the heart. But you have to have all of that. If not, it can become really unbalanced, and it can become pathological. So there's a lot of work to be done. And after the meditation, if I feel so guided, I'll share some books that I've been reading and maybe a podcast that I think has really been helpful to help me work through both intellectually and emotionally the times that we're in. So anyway, it's good to be here. And remember also, sometimes in meditation, some of your best thoughts can happen, right? And we have to be discerning. I mean, you can get on a jag about, well, what am I going to, buy for dinner tonight, or, what am I going to cook, or, what's going on in the Super Bowl, or whatever, just nonsense stuff. But other times, really important information can emerge, and important ideas, and in from the emptiness. So we achieve the stillness of the mind, but also the effectiveness of the mind and to take the compassion of the awakened heart and to So shall we do this thing, and we'll see you on the other side. Well, okay, love you. boy, I have not done that track in a long time. It was really beautiful. I hope you guys experience it. Anyway, I don't know. Similarly, we all have our own experience, but this is a group experience. So I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I had a kind of a recall vision, if you will, when I was a kid. I think we just moved back from Mexico. Anyway, we were in Houston, Texas, and we had a salesman come to the door. I don't know if he'd set up an appointment. Must have set up an appointment because it's a big deal. Anyway, he was an encyclopedia salesman. Remember those things, encyclopedias? And then later on we had CD-ROMs. You know, and this CD, there's a whole encyclopedia worth of knowledge. You know, it's a big. I mean, that sounds really quaint and kind of, you know, archaic at this point. But anyway. He came, and this was Encyclopedia Britannica, and we'd had a little World Book encyclopedias. We were made for kids. We were fine, and I, you know, was really into them. And this guy came, and they're just beautiful books. They were in real white leather, and they were, you know, they had great quality paper and binding, and you'd open up, and you just get the smell of ink, or I don't know, that book smell. And they were really scholarly articles about all these things. And so, you know, my parents, they, you know, I was sitting there panting. I guess my parents saw that, so they bought them. And I was the only one who used them, but yeah, my mom was really into them too. But and I think that it probably cost about $150 for this complete set of these leather-bound volumes, which, you know, that was a lot of money in 1967 or something around then. But they became, you know, my companions. It's like, you know, I think we had 3 television channels back then, and maybe a local one. But, you know, those books were always, you know, there in the bookshelf, and the smell, like, I would just open, and then, bam, you know. Just random open and see what was going on, and just start reading, you know, a prince of Denmark and, you know, 12th century, blah, 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 did such and such a thing. Oh, wow, Denmark. Anyway, so you start putting these things together, and it was such a, it was a big deal for me when I was a kid, and really opened up the world of knowledge and the world of history and science, and my God, so many things. And just, yeah, the history of human beings. You know, we're pretty interesting creatures. So, yeah, a wise person once said, and it kind of stuck with me, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who said it, but he said, my religion is wisdom. Okay. So I said, nice. Okay. And, getting back to my early experience of being in a cult for about 8 or 9 years, give or take a few months. Well, the first thing I did to get out of the cult, and I was convinced, I said, I've been barking up the wrong tree, or walking down the wrong alley, or I've taken the wrong fork at the crossroads, and I got to get back. So I went and joined the army, right? And it was a strategy of like, because a lot of people leave a cult, and sometimes when you leave a cult, it's kind of an addiction, you know. I mean, your world is really prescribed, and you know, you belong to this special group. You know, you're special because of your association with it. And if you're, you know, a big moggedy mog or whatever, you know, it's just like, it's all spelled out. You know, you don't have to think that much. It's all laid out, and that can be. Yeah, and there's a lot of community, you know, brothers and sisters and all this stuff, you know, and when you get out of that, you know, you're kind of, you know, you're stuck in a cheap apartment with paper mache walls, and like, what is my life about? I'm trying to find a job, you know, flipping hamburgers or something. It can be really hard. So anyway, my strategy was to join the United States Army, which I did, and I just said, I just want to do well. I don't want to screw this up, you know, because I felt like a huge failure. Yeah, so, I mean, even when I was in basic training and stuff, they had a little library, and the the rec room or something at the barracks where we were staying, and they had like the history of Chaucer, you know, and some of his writings, and I thought, oh, wow, this is so cool. And then later on, as I progressed through that, I got out of the army and went to the university. And at that point, it was like, I do not know what the truth is. I'm really clueless, you know. And I'd had some powerful spiritual experiences before the cult thing. So I knew there was something there, very legitimate, but it was really hard for me to, you know, read the Bible and not just get all this stuff that had been, you know, the interpretations and all the experiences. So I just had to leave that aside. And I said, you know, if it comes out here that, you know, that there is no God and it's just this kind of this random materialist universe and that's what it is, well, so bloody be it. I don't care. You know, I just want the truth. And that was a clean slate pretty much. And at least I tried. I mean, never clean. Obviously, I'd had a lot of experiences and whatnot by that time, but I started out with that premise and began to, you know, get on the path, which I continue on today. And over time, our opinions and our worldviews change as we develop and we evolve, and that's the game. And what we want to do is get to the highest levels of our own capacities in a way that we can, you know, starting with the Hippocratic Oath, I guess, do no harm. And then from there, do as much good as we possibly can do to, because in enlightened service, we're actually serving ourselves, you know, but to give love is to receive love, and to channel wisdom, to channel goodness and channel compassion. Even though it hurts and sometimes it's really difficult, it's still the path we're called to. And if we don't find that path, we're never truly happy, you know, at the deepest levels and on the long term. So all that said, what I really wanted to say is, you know, talking about all these good books and stuff, here's a book that I've started just recently, Steve McIntosh, and it's called Developmental Politics. And Steve's a really interesting guy. I've had dinner with him at a conference or two, and he's a really good friend of Jess Salzman, who's the guy who does the Daily Evolver podcast, which I highly recommend right now. There's a really good cultural analysis that he gives that's going on, and they're starting to get more into looking at or taking the integral map and applying it to politics. And he is he's a great guy. He's kind of if Ken Wilber and Mr. Rogers had a love child, it'd be Jeff Salzman. So and I mean, it's great. What I know, I never saw the movie. I just remember him being a really kind guy. And when I was a kid, I'd go, yeah, I'd like to go to your neighborhood. Looks like a happening place. So anyway, he's very, very, very kind. And I think he's kinder than me, you know, because I can get really grumpy and pissed off about a lot of things that are going on. But he really takes an open mind, an informed mind, a studied mind, a gifted mind, and a huge heart as he, you know, works on all the stuff that we're working on too. So I think you'll find that the Daily Evolver, check it out, podcast, and developmental politics, and just shows you, you know, the cultural wars and the different this and that. And I'm not all the way through it, and I'm familiar with developmental psychology and spiral dynamics and this sort of thing. But he really takes it to the next step and really applies it to what's going on in the world, and it begins to, you know, a vision of hope. Oh, this is the direction that we can move into. That includes all of us, no matter where we're at. And I would also say the Listening Society by Hansi Freinacht, if you're interested in yeah, kind of sorting through this and trying to find a way out of our seeming, you know, stuckness culturally and politically, and maybe even individually. So I think I've said more than enough. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, WeAwake team. Love you guys. And I think stay tuned for the next series of meditations. I think what we're going to do, we're going to start on PMP 3.0, which has always been kind of the flagship product that we've done and kind of really got us started as a company. And I think it has 17 tracks, and they're all 20-minute tracks, and it goes through tier 1, 2, and 3 of delta into deeper delta. And by the time you get to tier 3, it's really strong. It starts out a little lighter. So we'll do that. That'll keep us going for something like 17 weeks. And then it gets into epsilon, and there's releasing tracks. It takes you into kind of the higher theta and beta alpha to kind of help you, I don't know, process and put together some of the things you get from the really deep work that we'll be doing. So yeah, I need to stick together, keep meditating, keep practicing. Yeah, and give us your best, and we'll try to do the same. So love you, and appreciate your presence, and God bless.